There is a scene in The Matrix that almost nobody remembers correctly. Morpheus offers Neo two pills, red or blue. One shows you the truth, one lets you forget the truth exists. It's framed as liberation, as the moment a man chooses to see clearly. What people forget is what happens immediately after Neo takes the red pill. He wakes up in a pod, hairless, surrounded by machines, covered in fluid, and he screams. The truth in The Matrix is not empowering. It is not a superpower. It is the most horrifying thing that has ever happened to him. So, when an entire internet subculture took that symbol, that specific symbol, and used it to describe how enlightened and powerful they feel, I developed questions. Let's establish what we're actually looking at. The pill framework began in men's rights and pickup artist communities in the early 2010s. The red pill, you have seen through the lie of modern society, specifically regarding gender dynamics. You are awake and everyone else is asleep. The blue pill, you are still asleep, still comfortable, still believing what you were told. The blue pill person is not evil, they are simply unenlightened and pitiable. That was the original binary. It didn't stay binary for long. The black pill arrived and declared that red pill optimism was itself a delusion. The truth, according to the black pill, is that the system cannot be navigated or beaten. It can only be acknowledged in its full, crushing permanence. Black pill communities, sometimes called involuntary celibates, are defined by the belief that outcomes are fixed by genetics, looks, and social hierarchy, and that no amount of self-improvement changes this. The black pill is not enlightenment. It is enlightenment that has given up. The white pill is the antidote to the black pill. It says, yes, the system is broken, and yes, the situation is dire, and we choose hope anyway. Optimism as ideology. The white pill community tends to skew toward traditionalism or nationalism politics, the belief that things can be restored to something better if the right people act. Then there's the purple pill. It sits between red and blue, obviously. A community that acknowledges some truths from both sides while rejecting the tribalism of either. Moderate, nuanced, and predictably disliked by everyone. The gray pill suggests that certainty itself is the problem, that anyone who claims to have swallowed the definitive truth is probably selling something. And then there is the derivative pills. Pink pill, which applies the framework to feminist consciousness. Clown pill, which concludes that the entire situation is so absurd that mockery is the only rational response. God pill, crypto pill, doomer pill. At some point the pharmacy got out of hand. What started as a binary choice about whether to see clearly became a taxonomy, a sorting system, a way of categorizing every person you encounter into someone who gets it and someone who doesn't. And here is the detail that matters more than it looks right now. Every single pill, regardless of color or community, shares the exact same internal structure. We see clearly, and you don't. Yet. Fiction has been here before, repeatedly, and it was not kind about what it found. Go back to Plato's allegory of the cave. Prisoners chained in the ground, watching shadows on a wall, believing the shadows are reality. One prisoner escapes, sees sunlight for the first time, and returns to tell the others. They don't believe him. They think he's broken. He thinks they're blind. Plato wrote this as a philosophical thought experiment about the nature of knowledge and enlightenment. What he accidentally wrote was the founding document of every online truth community that would exist 2,500 years later. The escaped prisoner is the red pill. The chained prisoners are the blue pill. The underground cave is the mainstream. The sunlight is the hidden truth. And the returned prisoner's frustration at being disbelieved is every forum post that has ever begun with most people aren't ready to hear this. The part Plato included that the pill community is quietly removed is this. The escaped prisoner might also be wrong. The sunlight might be blinding rather than illuminating. The cave might have contained something real. Certainty of enlightenment and actual enlightenment are not the same thing. They never have been. Move forward, Light Yagami from Death Note. A genuinely intelligent person who discovers a truth others don't have access to. A notebook that kills anyone whose name is written in it. He becomes convinced that this knowledge, combined with his own superior judgment, makes him qualified to decide who deserves to live. He calls himself a god. He describes everyone who opposes him as unable to see what he is. This show is not endorsing this. This show is demonstrating methodically what happens to a person when they become so certain of their own clarity that accountability becomes impossible. Light doesn't become evil because of the notebook. He becomes evil because the notebook confirmed what he already believed, that he saw more clearly than everyone else around him. The notebook is the pill. Light is the person who took it. And then there is Fight Club. Tyler Durden dismantles the blue pill world. Consumerism, comfort, the performed contentment of modern life, and replaces it with something he frames as authentic and honest. His red pill is masculinity, reclaimed through destruction. His followers feel awake for the first time. And the film ends with Tyler revealed as a dissociated fragment of a broken mind. The liberation was psychosis. The awakening was a collapse. Palahniuk wrote it as a cautionary tale. Certain corners of the internet made it into a manifesto. The pattern across all three, Plato's Cave, Death Note, Fight Club, is identical. Someone gains access to the truth others don't have. The access transforms their identity, and the identity becomes the point. And somewhere in that transformation, the truth itself stopped being examined. Here's where the investigation changes direction. We have been talking about the pill communities as if the problem is the ideas inside them, but the ideas are almost secondary. The more interesting question is not what people believe when they take a pill, it's what they gain. Because the pill, any pill, provides several things simultaneously that are genuinely difficult to find elsewhere. A framework that explains everything, a community of people who share that framework, a clear identity within that community, and a border, clean and uncomplicated, between people who understand and people who don't. That is not a fringe offering. That is one of the most powerful psychological packages a human being can receive. Belonging, identity, purpose, and certainty, delivered simultaneously wrapped in the language of awakening. The question is not why vulnerable or isolated people are drawn to this. The question is why anyone wouldn't be. Psychologists call this a need for cognitive closure. The discomfort of ambiguity is not a minor inconvenience for most people. It is genuinely distressing. The brain actively seeks resolution. It prefers a wrong answer to no answer because a wrong answer at least stops the discomfort of not knowing. The pill framework is engineered, deliberately or accidentally, to satisfy this need completely. It takes a complicated, genuinely ambiguous world and converts it into a legible map. Here is why things are the way they are. Here is who is responsible. Here is what you should do about it. Here's what it means about you that you can see this. The map is not accurate, but accurate maps are complicated and full of areas marked uncertain. Inaccurate maps are clean, and clean feels like clarity. There is also something specific happening with identity. The pill is not just a belief system. It is a personality restructuring event. Before the pill, you're confused, isolated, struggling to understand why outcomes don't match effort. After you take the pill, you're awake, part of a community, equipped with an explanation for everything that wasn't working. The before and after are not incidental. They are the product of being sold, not the ideology, the transformation. The feeling of having been confused and now being clear. The feeling is extraordinarily difficult to surrender once you experienced it, because surrendering it means returning to confusion. And returning to confusion means the transformation wasn't real. This is why the pill communities are resistant to counter evidence in a way that goes beyond ordinary stubbornness. It is not that the members haven't considered the counter arguments, it is that accepting the counter arguments would cost them something far more valuable than a belief. It would cost them the identity built on having taken the pill in the first place. Here's what the pill actually produces. Not clarity, a substitute for clarity that feels identical from the inside. The red pill community promised men a framework for understanding modern relationships. What it largely produced was a generation of men who are significantly worse at relationships because the framework trained them to treat other people as variables in a system rather than as individuals. The black pill community promised an honest accounting of a brutal reality. What it produced was communities where despair was validated and reinforced until it became the only available option. The honesty calcified into an identity so committed to hopelessness that hope itself became a threat to be rejected. The white pill promised hope and restoration. What it frequently produced was communities so committed to the idea of a recovered past that the actual present became impossible to engage with honestly. Every pill, taken to its conclusion, produces a person who is less equipped to navigate reality than they were before they swallowed it. Because reality is not a system that can be decoded with a single framework. It is genuinely, irreducibly complicated. And the pill, any pill, is fundamentally a promise that isn't. Return to Neo in the pod, screaming. The communities that appropriated that symbol took the image of a painful awakening and converted it into a badge of power. They kept the clarity and discarded the cost. They made the red pill feel like winning rather than waking up covered in fluid, surrounded by machines, with no comfortable version of reality left to return to. I am not clean in this analysis. Anyone who constructs a framework for understanding human behavior and then presents it to an audience is in some degree offering a pill. The difference, and I am aware of how self-serving it is to claim this, is that a useful framework should produce more questions than it resolves, not fewer. The pill communities produce fewer, and that is the tell. Morpheus never told Neo what to do with the truth. He assumed seeing it was enough. It wasn't. It never is. So my question to the audience before you go, not about the communities, about you. Is there a framework you currently use to understand the world? Political, philosophical, spiritual, ideological, that produces more certainty than confusion, that makes more things make sense than it leaves unresolved? If the answer is yes, I'm not saying the framework is wrong. I'm asking when you last seriously tried to find out. But these are just my observations.